You don't know the legend Diamond Ferry that went to
I
Syracuse?
I played from 16 to 20. I'm kind of
But
a
you
young boy.
still, but you know who McNabb is, right? Obviously.
He was that era.
No, he was my era, but he was a So 2004, we play Syracuse, and we just got it was in the bag. Like we had no issues with them. We win the Big East, and he was the starting safety, and their running back got hurt, so he played both ways that game. He had, I think, like 100 yards rushing and 2 picks and a pick six.
Mm.
Like, hey,
That's a
hey,
Syracuse legend right there. You got to look
that's
him up.
that's what I'm saying. That's some high school stuff right there. Hold on, let me see what that is.
That boy Travis Hunter on steroids, ain't
I mean, he looked like Travis on steroids, like no cap.
he?
He was swole. Yeah, I'll tell you right, like totally jacked our whole season up, man. It was great. He had 28 carries, 141 yards, 2 TDs, and then a pick six.
Nah, that's yeah. I'll be tight too. I'll be tight too.
Look, you gotta look. I put it in the private chat. The legend Diamond Ferry. Okay. Next time you at the school, ask about him. They're gonna be like, "Yo, he's a different dude." Be careful because I actually, you know what? You probably haven't heard of him. I think he's been in some legal troubles. That's you know.
Might be a reason why I ain't heard it that way.
Sean, what we got?
If you feel that way about Syracuse, then you might feel some type of way about Notre Dame too. Then,
yeah, you think I must?
yeah,
that's why I was hesitant to even do this.
Yeah, I know. I reached out to you and I said, yeah, I played at Notre Dame. I was like, oh, you BC. I don't know. I feel like, it's not too between the lines, maybe, but I feel like outside of that until we play each other.
I would say though, for me, I personally don't have many issues because I never lost to Notre Dame. So,
oh wow,
yeah, I won all 3 years we played against them. So twice at BC. No, excuse me, twice at Notre Dame, one at BC.
Got you. I used to love playing at BC. For some reason, I had my best games at BC. I don't know what it is. Might be the turf, might be the way to win, or play or hit in the stadium. But
I like disrespectful.
Huh?
No, they locker room disrespectful, bro. No. The
I don't
BC
even know.
Way locker.
I don't even know what it looks like. Actually, yeah, because I think the cheerleaders use it.
I like running out of the away locker room though, because you get to run through the fans a little bit through the stadium.
This is true.
But it's a good time. Now let's get started though. Will, I appreciate you coming on. I'm your host, Shaun Crawford, co-host Carl Jones, and today we welcome BC grad, 12-year NFL vet, Super Bowl champion, and NFL wine guy, Will Blackmon. Will, thanks for coming on.
Fellas, what is good? I'm glad to be here and talk about whatever. I'm game.
Yeah, for sure. No, we definitely want to start with that the later, NFL wine guy. You're a retired NFL vet now. Obviously it's football season, so I'm sure you got time watching football, talking football, things like that. But I saw NFL wine guy, and I definitely got to tap in and hear more about what that means actually.
Yeah, no, it was man, when I got drafted to Green Bay, I was already, interested in wine, but more of the sweeter wines. But I was kind of nervous to break out wine in Green Bay because it's like, look at this dude drinking wine. This is a beer country, you know what I mean? But we also signed Charles Woodson, and he already had his own wine. Plus, he was our best player. So I was like, they're not going to say nothing to him, you know what I mean? So, it ended up becoming tradition. Like we were as a group, the DBs, when we were going road games, Charles would take us out to dinner. So we always had like a really cool wine we were dining with. And I just took a keen interest to like know more about like the history, the stories, the culture. Like for me, it was more about that. And ironically, that's how I fell in love with football, was the stories, the people who paved the way. Like all those things made me excited about it. So I just kept studying, wanted to learn more. And then I ended up seeing that documentary called Psalm, which was on Netflix for a little bit, where these three guys were training to be master sommeliers. And that's like the highest of the highest when it comes to wine as a wine evaluator. And it's like a 6% success rate to even pass that exam. There's only almost 300 in the world who's ever done it. So I started taking classes, became certified in a couple of different schools, and that's how I wanted to get into the wine space. So the NFL Wine Guy was born. Then I decided I want to start my own wine concierge company, and I started the Wine MVP. So that's kind of when it kind of it was like a career long journey until I retired when I wanted to do something with it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because, like you alluded to, I'm not gonna lie to you, growing up, wine really wasn't like the cool thing to drink. It was always like, the liquor. I personally don't drink beer. That's stuff tastes foul, but always some type of liquor. Having said that, though, my girl, obviously in her wine vibe, I only rock with the sweet stuff though. Like, give me something that's consistent with the sweet, because I don't know, I can't find one that I'm rocking with consistently right now.
Yeah, no. So that's the norm. Like, if you're kind of dabble and trying to get into wine and you're not sure, you usually start with the sweeter wines, and that's where I was. I would do a sweeter Riesling, because Riesling's also made dry. Moscato is a big one. It's an Italian sparkling wine. And so those are the two main sweet ones that stand out. Veuve Clicquot, they actually make a champagne that's demi-sec, and that means semi-sweet. So yeah, that's kind of. But there is. I'm gonna throw you a crazy curveball. There is a wine that's called Gewürztraminer. Is German?
Yeah, I don't.
Listen. I'll send you the correct spelling because it's kind of weird. So Gewürztraminer, it's related to like the Riesling grape. It's German, and that's what I first started drinking, because that's a sweet wine as well too. So yeah, I got a good list of sweet wines to try.
See, I would have thought, you being from Rhode Island, there might be a wine, country, known for, their wines and things like that, especially in the summertime, beautiful out on the lake, the water vibes.
Growing up, man, I was not on no lake growing up in Rhode Island, man.
Personally,
I was at the court.
Personally, I don't know many of us from Rhode Island. So when I saw that, I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh man, he gotta, like, if anyone's a local legend, we talk about, we like to shine light on our local legends for sure. And so if anyone's a local legend from Rhode Island, it gotta be you. And so kind of talk about Rhode Island in general, because like I said, I don't know many of us, that are from that part, of the country.
Well, yeah. First of all, right, there aren't many of us, but there also aren't many people in the state alone. There's only I think we got a million people in the state. I live in Cali, and my county got more people in the county than the whole state. But it was cool. I had a dope childhood, man. It was Providence is a big melting pot of African American, of Dominican, Puerto Ricans, Asians, Italians, Portuguese. Like, it is a huge melting. So everyone, feel like we get people from New York, people from Boston, people from Connecticut that end up falling there. So it was cool, man. I think I had a great childhood. I know Rhode Island is not known for football at all, but I remember playing in high school. It was pretty competitive. Like, we did have a team in our state that was actually ranked nationally, believe it or not, and played against them in the Super Bowl. And it was cool, man. I think for me, actually, Carl, ironically, I went to a Nike camp at Syracuse, and that's kind of what like set it off for me. So my biggest thing growing up in Rhode Island, obviously, is not known for football, so no one knows like who we are or what we're doing. So I actually had to go out and get my own notoriety. I started going to a lot of camps. I went to the Boston College camp and got noticed there immediately when I was like 14, got my first offer. And then at the time when I was playing, the Nike camp was invite only. Like, now everyone can just go and sign up and go and participate, but this was legit. You had to get a letter to your house. And I remember I used to follow everything, because back then student sports was it before rivals. And I just remember, like, I was seeing all these guys going to these camps, and I never thought I would go to a camp ever, because I'm like, man, I'm in Rhode Island, they're not going to find me. And sure enough, I got a letter to go to the camp, but the only one to go to was at Syracuse, and which is like a 6-7 hour drive. And so I told my dad, and he's like, well, this is the camp we're trying to go to. So we drove up to Syracuse, stopped at some Dino Barbecue. And
Yeah.
then stopped over there, and then and they're called chicken wings too. I can't call them buffalo wings. That's what I learned. Don't they're chicken wings up there. And went to the camp, and honestly, I ended up having one of the best days of my life, man. I ended up getting MVP of that Nike camp in Syracuse, and then after that, I mean, all hell broke loose because it was kind of like, okay, this dude can compete against everybody else.
Now, how prideful are you about the fact that you are from that area? Maybe not so much in college, because I'm sure at BC there were some guys that played at Rhode Island. But when you make it to the league, all them Florida boys, you know how they be chatting, you know, all the West Coast, Texas guys. We from Ohio, so like we very prideful about that. When you make it there, like how prideful about the fact that you made it from the New England area?
No, it was big, especially because I was a high level recruit, so I did go through the whole circuit. Like I did all the Nike camps. I, played in the U.S. Army All-American game, and that game right there is when I got the first taste of like, man, this dude's from Rhode Island. Like no one even knew my name. They called me Rhode Island. That's what was crazy. It's like I'm one of the top 70 kids in the country playing this game, and they just kept calling me Rhode Island. I was a starting safety in that game. And I remember I got an interception and returned it long, and you can see like we're boys now, but Jason Avant, former receiver for the Eagles, like I saw him on the sideline. You can see his mouth. He's like, "Yo, Rhode Island got a pick. Rhode Island got a pick." And it's for me, it's always funny. I was like, "It's cool, man. Like I'm from Rhode Island, but like they learn, quick that I can ball too." So I took that with me to Boston. You know what I'm saying? Because we had a lot of guys get recruited from Florida and Jersey and Ohio. Actually, we had a lot of St. X boys over there, and Elder. Or we had a linebacker from Elder that was there, and so. That was big, just doing that there. And then, so once I got to the league, it was kind of like I already seen it, especially BC. We moved to the ACC. So I seen Florida dudes every week in my grill, especially when I moved to receiver. Bro, they were just in my grill every single week. That was fun. That was funny.
Now, you talk about playing with guys like Jason Avant. Talk about some other guys that were in your class, coming out, maybe that you played within that Under Armour game or that you saw early on in college.
Yeah, the biggest name in my class was Vince Young. He was the main. Yeah, he was the main dude then. And I remember Holodinata was in that class too. Like Ahmad Brooks was in that game. Lorenzo Booker, who was nice in college, in high school, he was in that game. Yeah, we had a couple dudes, but he was the main one. Was Vince Young, so it was just funny to go against him and watch him. But that was such a cool deal because everything. I didn't know how recruiting worked in Ohio. You guys see it firsthand. You guys are a big football pipeline. Just the whole Big 33 in general. It's such high level football there, and so I'm sure you have seen it in some sort on how guys go to the next level. And for me, especially now too, you guys have all this social media where you can see everything now. And me, I had no idea how scholarships work because football wasn't big. So for me, it was cool that everything that I eventually hope happened did happen.
Now, do you often go back to Rhode Island and try to give kids that have grown up, trying to follow your footsteps? Do you give them a platform or give them an opportunity to be seen, or maybe reach back out, try to help them, through the recruiting process, finding schools, things like that?
Yeah, so we started the Will Blackmon football camp, which is actually a free camp. Every year we get about like 300 kids from ages 7 to like 14. So we did that for a couple of years, and then I was like, gosh, I want to do something right to give other athletes that platform. So I started an actual my own combine, and it was Blackmon Rowley, as in Kyle Rowley. Former Rhode Island football player who played professional arena-wise. We actually had a combine for guys to come, and we invited a bunch of D2, D3 schools because it's a quiet period for Division I. They couldn't come to the schools. To the high school. So we had a bunch of those colleges come, and there were some dudes like that the state's never heard of that end up walking away with offers. So for me, that was like huge because again, I just know how hard it is to even be seen or talked about. Like you have to go out and compete, or they have to find a way to bring them to you. So we haven't done it in a couple of years. Obviously, COVID played a big part in what was going on, but the plan is to bring it back next year because it was a huge success because there were so many guys from lower level schools that had high level athletes. And that was the cool part, you know, because there were some kids, I'm sure, that never even thought they would ever get a scholarship.
And yeah, no, and definitely, I had my first youth camp in Cleveland, Ohio this year. It was a free youth camp as well, using the Varsity House brand, and I mentioned local legends earlier, and so really shining light on our city's local legends, giving back in a way. We had the mayor of Cleveland come out. We had some Browns guys come out, and then just some other NFL guys who are from Cleveland come out, and just to give that opportunity, because like you said, like in Cleveland, obviously you for me, I felt like I've always seen people make it to the next level, but I was never in arm's reach of those people. So it was like I just knew he was from Cleveland. I knew he's playing on, you know, Saturdays, Sundays, but this was like an opportunity to give them that face-to-face, that, you know, that real interaction with those type of people, because like you said, it definitely goes a long way. And you know, you can be the bridge to these universities, because like they found you out there. And so you moved to BC, and you talked about a little bit earlier, you said you play receiver, and obviously, you know, some big things going on right now is Travis Hunter playing both sides of the ball. I saw you mention Gamble and some other guys who were some vets back in the day. Kind of talk about just your journey to BC, kind of, you know, what led you to go to BC, and then just that process of being in the Big East, which me and Carl know from growing up playing NCAA. Big East football was that conference, and then being able to switch to the ACC. So talk about, you know, that BC journey a little bit and your time there.
Well, yeah, just to finish up about the camp, like the big deal for me is like I would purposely get a bunch of, like, I can get a bunch of NFL guys from everywhere, but I would get guys local, like you said, local legends that either they have played beyond high school, because especially Rhode Island, like I want to give examples. And fortunately, at one point we had 3 guys from Rhode Island that I played against that were actually in the NFL, and that was pretty cool for us. And right now, Quiddy Pay, he went to my high school, the DN for the Colts. And so every coach that's there, counselor, whoever, they're all from Rhode Island, have played beyond. So it's a good example for them. But yeah, I went through the whole recruiting thing, man. And I think it came down to, it was either going to be BC or Wisconsin. And I just remember I took my trip to Wisconsin, and they recruited me to be a tailback. And I'm like, they must not watch my tape, because I don't. I was like, I don't run in between the tackles, man. Like that. I'm bouncing everything. I was like, I am not going there. Forget that. I'm bouncing every single run. And so I had so much fun that trip, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'll ever like get anything done here. Like that was an amazing trip, man. But BC, like I was their guy from day one. It was far enough away from home, but close enough, you know, to be, you know, near my father, who's a single parent. And yeah, it just became an overall comfort. And so I go there, I go to BC. I'm a 17-year-old freshman. Like I was one of the youngest there, and because I didn't turn 18 till late October. And they threw me in the fire. And remember, my first game was ESPN2 versus Stanford, and I was like, like I go
physical.
But I go from Rhode Island to playing against these dudes. Like it's a completely different world, you know what I'm saying? And it was cool. So yeah, my first 3 years, ended up playing corner, and which was cool. It was super fun. Got a couple of All Big East accolades, and you know, went against guys. The first receiver I ever had to guard was Andre Johnson. I had to deal with Fitzgerald. I mean, there was so many like unbelievable dudes like in that conference to defend. And then it was interesting. I remember going into my junior year, you know, you fill out the petition to check out your draft status or what have you. And even going into that year, they had me ranked high amongst the top corners. But we all of our receivers were seniors, and we ended up graduating those dudes. And coaches thought the only person that was actually pretty dangerous with the ball was me, because I also returned punts too. Like that was really what I made my name as well, was returning kicks and punts. And coach called me in the office. He's like, "Hey man, we're thinking of trying you out at offense." And I was like, "Absolutely not," and left. I was like, it's not happening. Like I literally just saw my ranking come out like in Sport and News magazine or whatever. Like there's no way in hell. So I had a couple more meetings. I kept saying no. And then I remember sitting in my room one day and I was like, okay, I'm probably going to get drafted. I was like, it's highly likely I'm going to get drafted. And there's going to be a lot of dudes in my team that are going to have to get a job after this. And so the one thing that they were really excited for was that we had a bowl streak. We already went to 3 consecutive bowls and won 3 straight. So like a bowl game was a big deal for especially seniors. And so I'm like, let me try out receiver in spring ball. I told him, I said, I'll try it out in spring ball. And so this tryout goes from me winning the X job. And if y'all know, listening, the X is the dude. Like that is the number one guy. He's on the line of scrimmage, no motioning, no shifting, not anything. X is number one. And I thought they wanted me to go and just be the slot occasionally and still play defense. No, I won the X job. And I said, well, can I still play some defense? Like, yeah, you can play some defense. So that was a huge adjustment and shift. Now, fortunately, we had a lot of depth in our secondary where I could make them move. We had a cornerback named DeJuan Tribble. He's from Cincinnati, and he ended up having a good season as well. So that was huge. I knew it was gonna hurt. It was gonna hurt me, my draft status, but it was gonna help the team. So that was a tough part for me. That was a huge sacrifice that I don't regret, but it was a tough one to make.
Now, your time, did it overlap with Matt Ryan at quarterback?
Yeah. So Matt was a redshirt freshman when I moved to receiver.
So how was he when obviously he's much better when he probably left, but like how was he at that point?
No, Matt was funny because he I remember he came in as a freshman and he used to carve us up in practice. And he used to like run his mouth. He's real intense, like in terms of a competitor. And I just remember there was one spring game where he went to the sideline and was cussing out the coaches. I'm like, this is a freshman. And no one talks, and our coaches scared everybody. Like Coach O'Brien and Coach Dana Bible, like they were all intimidating. And so it was funny because after he did that, the two coaches looked at themselves and they go, oh, we got one. We got one, we got a QB with some fire. And he displayed it the whole time, which is why, he was a top pick and he had success and he is a great leader. He's an MVP, you know what I mean? So he was the real deal.
You talk about the transition that you made from Rhode Island to college and it being a completely different experience. Playing in college for BC against Stanford and Miami that you mentioned before. Talk about that first game when they moved you to receiver, and just the transition that had to be.
Yeah, my first game moved to receiver was straight because one, I had 2 quarterbacks, Quentin Porter, and I had Matt Ryan, but I didn't have a big route tree. I ran a now and a go route. Either I ran a quick now route or I ran a straight go route. I had a couple slants and some checks too, where like hot routes, but I didn't run much. And it was against BYU. It was my first game, so I just knew as an athlete, like none of them were going to guard me. So it was cool. I had an easy game. I had 100 yards my first game, and it was a lot of just screens though. Like
easy game, 100 yards, easy game, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Meaning, like I didn't have much to like work with. Like they weren't pressing me. Like I was open a lot. They were trying to stop the run, not knowing what they were going to get from receiver. From me. So it was fun. It was fun to do that. But the exception though is that my first game was in a high altitude, so your boy couldn't breathe for a bit. Mm-hmm. So that was cool, man, and just got real comfortable. But I had some good practices. Like I said, I had a good spring game that made me comfortable, and I was so used to having the football in my hands. So my first game, the transition was crazy, and it did help that like I just came from defense, so I kind of knew like how guys were going to try to play me or what worked against certain guys.
Yeah, before we go to the talk about the league, I do want to say I hated playing BC because y'all play football so damn physical. Like there's physical and then there's BC physical.
Who were the backs when you played?
Oh, AJ, me AJ Dillon was a problem to deal with.
It was AJ, but the number 2, I forget his name, but he was a similar back, like similar.
44. Bro, AJ was like the backup, like AJ 250, the backup was 240. I'm like, bro, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But then on special teams, they crazy. Yeah, I'm so happy they banned the wedge the year I got to college, because the film that we watch, BC special teams is disrespectful. It seemed like them kids don't play at all, and all they care about is just knocking your head off. We beat them the one year, and they knocked out 4 of our dudes on kickoff.
Yeah, that's Steve Adazio. He's from the Urban Meyer, Florida stuff. So he's not messing around when it comes to that.
Yeah. Knowing what you know what it goes through to play both sides of the ball. I do want to talk about Travis Hunter right now for a little bit before we get to your NFL career. Talk about the magnitude of what he's doing and just how challenging it really is from a player who's done both at the same level.
Well, first credit him just for being just an unbelievable high-level athlete, and he's done these things in high school. But also a huge credit to Dion and his coaching staff, because they are putting him in the right position to continue to succeed. They're not just throwing him out there and telling him like how to be an athlete or what to do. They're calling like the right plays for him. They're putting him in position on defense, like, hey, take away this dude or what have you, and he's just having fun. And the cool thing is like that they are letting him be himself. And that is a huge deal when you're dealing with a certain kind of athlete. Because I just remember when I went over to offense, like I was a punt returner. So my style is I'm going to catch it and I'm going to try to get jiggy however I can. But our coach was like, hey, you catch the ball, you go north, period. Like no east-west, you go north, you get routes, you get yards. Make sure you're laying east and north and south. Like you get the ball, go upfield. And my natural instinct, I'll get it, go upfield, but I'm going to drop 3 bodies in the process too.
Got you.
And so yeah, so I just remember we played Army, and my quarterback threw a quick out route. It was Omaha route, quick out route. Caught it, and then boom, I hit one dude. Then I hit another, and I crossed up another, and then I just kept going behind the line of scrimmage. But I kept going around all the other way, and I came out on the other side of the field, and then I ended up scoring. It was like a 30-yard, a 40-yard touchdown, something like that. And it was crazy play. Crowd went crazy, whatever. So I remember next day we get into the film room, and obviously you know how it is. You waiting for that play, and everyone knows I'm gonna get lit up by coach. So he got the remote, and I remember he's just like he has the red dot on me right now, and he's just like. He keeps going back and forth with the red dot, and everyone's just waiting for me to get killed. And he's like, you do this bleep right here, you better make it work. He said, you better make it work. And they were like, yo, I can't believe he didn't say anything to you. I'm like, you know what? I think he realized he got to let me be me. And so I probably had maybe 5 more receptions where I was reversing field like crazy and making a big play. So he was like, you get it, you just go. I ain't going to say nothing to you. And my point in saying that is they're letting Travis be him. And that's what's really cool. And that's how he's going to shine. So I'm sure he doesn't practice during the week because that's a lot. I mean, the first game he played like 150 plays, which is crazy. Yeah, and that was me. I was getting like 80, 90 snaps a game, because I was doing offense, defense. I played a little nickel as well and special teams as a returner. So, it's pretty cool to see that.
And now, you transition from BC, you get drafted, like you mentioned, to the Packers. And earlier you mentioned some guys that they signed, like Charles Woodson, some vets that you were with, Brett Favre, and then also Rodgers as well, before you got out of there. And so, kind of just, talk about that process of going to the league, new experiences, kid from Rhode Island, now in Green Bay, probably similar as into not much to do. I've never been to Green Bay, but from what I hear, it's, not too much to do out there. So
yeah,
yeah, hey, that sounds
hey, I like that right there.
South Bend right there. But I heard South Bend was a little bit better just from Equinemius St. Brown went to Notre Dame and then played for Green Bay. So he was saying South Bend a little bit better. I don't know. Well,
I'm sure Green Bay's a little bit better too since I've been there.
But talk about that transition, and then going into a team that already has Brett Favre as their leader, Brett Favre as their quarterback. with an Aaron Rodgers, on the roster.
Yeah.
Kind of just talk about some of those experiences, and then what you've probably taken from just having those vets early on in your career.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool because I'm a huge football historian, and so like going to BC was tough because we weren't a huge like football school at all. We had really cool sports, but we were academic school, and you're in Boston too, so you got the Red Sox, the Patriots, the Bruins. You're competing with them. And when I was in school, like all those teams won championships. We were ranked top 20 in the country, but nobody really cared. You know what I mean? So I was super excited to go to Green Bay because I mean it doesn't get more historical than playing for the Packers. And so I wasn't so much tripping about like what to do there because I was there to play ball. You know what I mean? And like I was really excited to go there. And it was funny because when they called me, I already saw that they signed Charles Woodson, that's one of my favorite players to ever watch. And I was like, damn, I actually had a good choice of numbers. They said you want 21, 24, 27. I was like, okay, that's like a legit list right there. Mm-hmm. And 27 was my high school number. 21 obviously is Prime's number. And 24 I love, and I was like, well, that's Charles's number. So I was like, well, I don't want to get 24 because he's probably going to want it. So I don't want to deal with him if he wants 24. So I get 27. I show up to Green Bay. He got 21. And I'm like, but it was cool, man, to show up there day one and to see everybody. Like it was really hard not to get like starstruck, but it was. I had to always keep reminding myself, like, okay, I'm here now, so it's like fair game. Like I'm one of these dudes now, and I'm here. So it was really cool because I respect football so much. I respect the history of the game that much. Where it was cool to see like football royalty like walking in. So that was dope, man.
Now, as we're recording this, it's confirmed that Aaron Rodgers did tear his Achilles, excuse me.
Yeah.
So praying for him in his recovery. But taking it back to that time frame where him and Brett, I'm not gonna say we're competing because I mean Brett was the starter, but does the rest of the team really give a damn about like that competition, quote unquote, or is like everyone else in the media making it much bigger than what it actually is?
So at first, obviously, it wasn't. It became a competition for Brett because he was still balling, and then he went and drafted, Aaron Rodgers. And so he made a point to have like 2 more outstanding seasons. And it was funny having both quarterbacks because it was live action every day. Like the ones went against Favre, the twos went against Aaron Rodgers. And so we would go into games and most starters weren't better than our backup. So like that was pretty cool. But when all that drama went down, when they were trying to force Brett out the door and try to get Aaron in, for us, we were like, I mean, we're going to have a good quarterback either way. So like y'all need to figure out like what you want to do. Obviously, we know what Brett's capable of because he's been doing it for over, however many years. And we've seen how Aaron is every single day. It's very, very, very similar to the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love deal. Like it is spot on. Because they draft Jordan Love. Aaron goes and gets 2 more MVPs, which was crazy. But everyone has seen what Jordan Love looks like in practice, and they're super comfortable. And that's how we felt with Aaron Rodgers. So I would say during that time, too, the Packers did a good job of not letting it get into the locker room. Like whatever beef was between them and the front office, they handled it amongst themselves. So we had so many adults on that team. It just didn't affect us.
Talk about some of the memories or moments that you can remember that you had with Charles or with Aaron or just some of the other greats on that team. Were you like Driver on the team then?
Yeah, Donald Driver was there.
Yeah. So kind of just talk about some memories or just some like I said, moments from the past that you've had with those guys, whether it be some mentorship or just some funny stories on defense or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I mean the coolest thing was just to be there. I mean, it was Charles Woodson there and Al Harris with the 2 corners. So we had 2 today that would be like Trayvon and Stephon Gilmore. Like it would be like those 2 right now. And we had, he was on his way to having a Hall of Fame career. Nick Collins was our safety, and he was outstanding. And then Jamal Williams, who ended up being undrafted, and he ended up, making a lot of money and being a Pro Bowler. So we had a really cool and talented secondary. And I got two stories that are interesting. So one, remember I said we always went out and had wine, before games, the night before games. And so we're playing Minnesota, and that's a short trip, from Green Bay to Minnesota. So we had a lot of time to ourselves. And so I remember we go to this restaurant called Seven in Minneapolis, and we get there. Charles gets the table. We leave on our suits, and we're like dining, hanging out like gentlemen. And we're probably like maybe an hour in, keep checking our watches, and like, okay, we still got a lot of time to hang out. So midway through the dinner, meanwhile, we already had like a ton of wine. But again, it's still early in the night. So then towards the end of our dinner, we hear like music upstairs. So we asked the waitress, and she's like, yeah, there's a actual like a lounge upstairs. So again, we check our watches, and Charles is like, all right, let's go up to the lounge. And I'm thinking like, all right, like whatever Charles says, we're with him. So we're going to go to the lounge. I'm thinking like, we got to get back. And I'm not trying to, get wasted the night before a game. So we go upstairs to the lounge. We get like a little section to ourselves, and, we get more wine, and then we start getting tequila. Like now, and this is regular season. This is regular season versus a division opponent. So now I remember Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, they were calling our game. They came over to hang out with us. And now we in here.
Yeah, now it's a party.
Now we in here. And so we end up getting back to the hotel in time. And I just remember, man, I just felt like garbage. I'm like, man, I'm going to have the worst game ever tomorrow, man. Like, I'm going to be hungover. It's going to be embarrassing. They're going to probably cut me once they find out, like, what I'm feeling like. Bro, I'm going, because I felt like garbage. I haven't been like this drunk since, like, college. You know what I'm saying? So this is crazy. And so I remember the next day I get up, I'm doing everything. I get the IV, I get the Pedialyte, I get the salt tablets. I'm doing everything to get myself right. And I just had the biggest headache and glossy eyes. And keep in mind, it was Jamal Williams, it was Nick Collins, it was Charles Woodson, and myself. We were all out. And so the game starts, right? And I'm just low here. I'm already sweating, didn't even like run down the field yet. And I had the biggest headache. So watching the game early on, boom, Charles gets the interception. And I'm like, okay, well, that's Charles. Like he's probably been going out all the time, and that's just what he does. And then later on, boom, Tramon Williams gets an interception. And I'm like, okay, well, Tramon's a rising star. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been making plays. That's why he's out there. And then in the third quarter, I believe, Nick Collins gets a pick six. Boom, like to the crib. So right now, three of us, 3 out of the 4 who've gone out, like just made a play. And so I'm like, damn, like these dudes are out here lighting it up. And I'm just thinking like, well, something gonna happen for me eventually, right? Right. Something gonna happen for me. So I start feeling a little better. Then the third quarter comes, and then I get like a huge punt that sent me way back, catch it, and I get through the first little wave, and then I keep going. All of a sudden, I'm out of here. So I end up taking a punt back to the crib for like 70-something yards. And I remember we're on the sideline like going crazy. All 4 of us who went out the night before, like we all like did something like crazy to like affect the game. So for me, that's kind of how our wine nights got even more increased. Like we didn't.
We always got to have a wine night. Like
exactly, a little wine. We didn't go out and get rocked the night before, like never again. But I always made sure, even if I didn't go out with the group or if I was on a different team, I always had like a small glass, maybe like 2 to 3 ounces before every game, ever since that happened.
Now is it true that the red helps the blood circulation and things like that, or
there's something along the lines of that, but I don't enjoy wine for medicinal reasons at all whatsoever.
that'd be my trick. Like, okay, I'm having it before it's gonna help my blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Help me sleep at night, things like
there's
that.
Something with the resveratrol in the skin that does something like that, but I'm not like I don't give any kind of medical advice. I'll give pairings, and that's about it, but not advice.
One question I do have about Charles, though. You were there for his Defensive Player of the Year season, correct?
I got hurt that year, but yeah, I was there.
What is it like? Because it's very rare that a DB takes that award home.
Yeah, only 3.
And he's a legend. Obviously, he's from Ohio, but he betrayed us and went up to that field or whatever. But he's obviously a legend around here. What was it like just that year in particular? I know you say you were hurt, but just being able to witness someone affect the game in the way that he did that year.
Yeah, no, this is the perfect segue because he's part of my next story. I remember when I got there, he did things differently. Like he just wouldn't practice at all. He would come out to like Friday's walkthrough just to verify some things and then go back in the building and then go out there Sunday and get 2 picks. Like that was him. Like he was. I'm telling you, on Sundays, man, he came through and just went crazy. So in me, I'm doing everything in my power to like make plays, and I just couldn't make any plays in the secondary. But this dude's out here not even practicing or working out with us, and he's getting picks and turnovers like left and right. So I remember one night, I'm in my second year, and I was like, I need to figure out how to like watch this film stuff. So I said, maybe that's what I'm missing. Like I studied with the team because here's people to understand, just football players in general. It's just like school. Like when you're in class, yes, you're going over the notes, you're reading as a group, but then when you go home, you have to review it yourself as well. Like even I'm teaching rookies now, like, look, like when you yes, you have these hours as a group, but then you must go home and review and watch film on your own just to keep it fresh. And so I would be in the room with the team, like learning and studying, but then I would go home and like, all right, I was there for 8 hours already. Like, what more do I need to look at? And so I just go in there and, play Call of Duty or watch something, you know what I mean? And I finally decided to come back to the facility one night and like, let me really learn how to watch this film stuff. Maybe this is what I'm missing. So I go into the projector and somebody left the projector on. So as I go in there, it's actually someone's in there and Charles was in there. He was in there watching tape. And so he was like, hey, like, come sit down. It's like 8:30 at night. He's like, hey, come sit down. I'll show you a couple of things. And so he went over like formations, down and distances, splits, basically just situational football. So he would play honest football probably 95% of the game, but then he would also star concepts that would show up, a lot. So he would find 3 plays every game that had high tendencies. And so when that play showed up in the game, he would jump it, and he's like, if they get me on it, well then, they get me. I'm playing the percentages. So for me, I was like, well, that's when you take a really high level elite athlete and he's actually preparing and putting in the work, you get a Hall of Famer, you get a Pro Bowl, you get an All Pro, I'm gonna say you get an All Pro because there are guys that can get by and make the Pro Bowl just by having a good season. And not on a consistent basis. He was consistent year in and year out because of his preparation. And what's funny is, as I mentioned, that people don't know, like that's how Dion was too. Dion was a big film guy, and he just knew everything. And also he's a unbelievable athlete too. So that was the thing I saw with Charles, and that's what really told me, like, okay, it's you gotta be the film, because you think about this, fellas, like when you get to the NFL. Everyone is a mutant, right? Everyone has some kind of special mutant power, which is what got them there. And so I think of, okay, who are the most powerful mutants? Well, the ones that can control your mind, right? Is what I think. And so it comes down to really preparing and studying, because like the film is there and everything is situational football. Rarely are you going to just out athlete somebody, unless you scheme it up and you find that you are a better athlete. But yeah, the film thing really changed like everything for me. Watching film with Charles, and then when I went to Seattle in 2013 for the offseason with Chris Richard, I spent time with Chris Richard and LOB that year when they won the Super Bowl. So those are 2 big deals that taught me about preparation.
Now, I mean, even in your career, you were fortunate enough to be on some legendary secondaries and some, obviously some great organizations. And from the Packers, you went to the Giants and you played with guys like Aaron Ross, who's a Texas legend, and then Antro Rowe, who's a Miami legend. And then obviously, the defensive line that you had, Justin Tuck, Notre Dame guy, of course, and then Pierre Paul. But other guys on the other side of the ball, Eli, Nix, Cruz, just a great roster. And you were on a team that won the Super Bowl, that defeated Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Right.
Talk about just that season and, coming from a team, an organization like the Packers, the secondary that you had, to now entering this roster and a Super Bowl roster where it might have looked, even slim for you and the organization during the season, but you guys pulled it out. You beat one of the best teams ever, assembled one of the best seasons ever. And so kind of just talk about that transition and what maybe the Packers or that experience with the Packers did for you coming over into the Giants.
Yeah, well, my experience with the Packers was tough because I had an injury plagued career when I was in Green Bay. I mean, I was at IR like twice. I had 3 surgeries when I was in Green Bay, and so I had a bad knee injury in 2009. So I remember going into the season, I ended up signing a tender, for like 1.5, whatever. Going to 2010, my knee wasn't fully healthy, because I did the ACL, MCL, LCL, I did everything to it, and so I ended up moving to safety, which is what they say: when you slow down, you move to safety. And so that year, my knee just didn't hold up. And so I didn't really have a good preseason. So the tough thing is, despite that, I ended up getting released at a settlement. And so now I'm out of a job in 2010. I remember waking up the next day, and then my wife, she had a dream like the Giants called. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so sure enough, 20 minutes later, my agent calls. He's like, the Giants want to work you out. So I'm like, I know, right? I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, what's up?
What the Powerball number is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's go to the gas station right now and like do this.
Yeah.
So I asked them if they can give me like a few more weeks, like just to, they didn't know how messed up I was. So I asked for a few more weeks to get right. So a few weeks comes, I fly out to New York. I go meet with the team doctor because obviously I just had a knee injury. And what people don't know is I actually failed my physical when I went to the Giants because he was able to move my knee like it was super loose. But I told myself, but I can run. Like I've been running for the past 2 weeks. Like I know I can. He was like, all right, well, it's still intact. So I'm not going to fully fail you on this, but it's still pretty loose. So I'm going to put an asterisk next to it. So I went and worked out and ended up, I don't know how, on one leg, ran like a 4.57 on like one leg. And I ended up signing with the team. So as the season went on, just my knee just got worse and worse and worse. So literally my leg, like neurologically, just shut off. Like there's nothing I could do about it. So when I signed to play for the Giants, you signed the waiver, meaning like if something happens to your leg, they're not responsible for it. I was like, whatever, I don't care. I just want to play. So towards the end of the season, the team doctors brought me in the room, and Ronnie Barnes and Byron, they were 2 leading the charge here. And they said, look, we're going to rip up this waiver. You need to get your knee fixed. So they said, and this is rare, and this is why I hold the Giants in high regard, despite me wearing a cowboy hat right now.
After the game, I would be wearing a cowboy hat too.
You silly. So I said, they said, look, pick any surgeon, pick any rehab place, and we will pay for it. And so this now, like I'm not on the team anymore, and I go and have surgery, boom, they take care of it. And this is also during the lockout in 2011. So I'm not on the team. I'm in California training, rehabbing, and I sent them every single bill, and they took care of it. So they paid every bill from January all the way to like August. And they did not have to because I'm no longer a New York Giant. And so the GM at the time, Jerry Reese, is like, look, when you're ready, hit me up. And usually they say as a, cautionary, like, hey, being courteous, like, hey, you know what? If you're ready, just give me a call. I'm gonna call your ass like when I'm ready. Like this,
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Yeah, no, like that. Yeah, I'm dead serious. Hell yeah. So once I got ready, I felt good. I gave him a call in 2011, and he worked me out again. I didn't get signed the spot, but they ended up signing me a few weeks later. And then, like I said, the tough part is when I got released from Green Bay, that's the year they went and won the Super Bowl, and that was hard because I was there for the 4-year build. I knew the team was going to Super Bowl. Like we all knew that it was happening this year. And so to go to New York and come back the next year and win it with them was pretty cool. And the big thing about that team, man, was we just had so many, I like to use like just adults, like everybody was mature, and our team held everyone accountable. Like if you got a line, like you probably got beat up, because you were messing with everybody's plan. And it was pretty cool, man. It was really fun to be there, but just to go through all that, come back, and actually, like you mentioned, Green Bay was 15-1 that year when we went to Green Bay and beat them. So it was cool, man. It was such a, like, when I tell that story, I remind people, like, the emotions are the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. Like, I'm in Green Bay, my contract year. I just need to stay healthy. I tear my ACL, right? And then I signed for 1.5. My wife is pregnant, and then I get released, and I lose all that, money. And then I go to the Giants, and then I get hurt again. I have to have another surgery. And then I end up going back to the Giants. I win the Super Bowl. Like, it's like completely different levels of emotion. One is like devastation, like I don't want to talk to anybody, versus like, where is everybody? Let's have fun.
I do gotta ask. You won a Super Bowl against with the Patriots, your team growing up?
I did not like the Patriots, believe it or not.
So, like, was the people at the crib, was the people at the crib rooting for you? Was they rooting for
me? For me.
Okay, I just had to ask that. I didn't know if the people back in Rhode Island was like,
they said congrats. They said congrats to you, Will, not the Giants. Yeah,
I do want to say on that topic of, because at my time at Notre Dame, I had 3 surgeries, 2 ACLs opposite sides, and then an Achilles during my time at Notre Dame. And so I feel you on the injuries and the highest of highs, lowest of lows. Like, I unfortunately missed a college football playoff trip that we had, but ended up being able to play in one by the end of my career, and also was awarded captain and those things. So looking back at it, it's like it was a blessing in disguise. Obviously, you want to be healthy, you want to have the best career that you could have, but things happen for a reason. And you talk about it, leaving the Packers and going through that whole process, but then being able to join the Giants and win the Super Bowl with them. I want to stay on that topic of the highs, the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows, and especially for you, a player that been on multiple teams, but you had a very long NFL career. Talk about that mentality of maybe your upbringing that created that strong will, the power to bounce back from adversity, or was it something that you just kind of gradually learned over time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beast. Like, when people ask me, if I was to describe myself one way, I pat myself on the back, like, what is it? And I'm like, man, I'm resilient, and I think for me, it does go back to just being younger. Maybe, I lost my mom when I was 6, and that was the biggest piece of adversity I had to ever deal with, and unfortunately, when she passed away, and the next day, I think I went and signed up and played football, and I think right then and there, I was able to just, despite what was going on in my life, I was still able to, like, go play, and play well. But I just always felt like I'm here for a reason. Like, I made it all the way to, like, the NFL from Rhode Island, and so there's no way, like, the story ends like that. You know what I mean? I will always tell myself, like, someone has been in a worse situation than myself and has won. Like someone has succeeded in a far worse situation, because it's not so much the injury that's the hard part. It's the mental part. Like, how can I handle, especially when you mentioned 3 season-ending injuries for yourself, Shaun. Like, that's crazy. That's super tough. And so I just been fortunate. Like I said, I'm like, there has to be a way. So I think me thinking like that, I aligned with some good people in the rehab and training world, where I end up meeting this guy who's based here in California, and he has, like, this really weird, like, ninja training program that, like, Troy Polamalu, he did it, and he's the first person I saw do it.
Marinovich?
Yeah, so it was Marv and Gavin. There was those 2 guys. So yeah, Gavin ended up starting his own business called Sports Science Lab. Marv went and did his own thing. So I ended up meeting with Gavin. And I just found different ways to, like, train and preserve, like, my bone health and my ligament health, like other ways to just be stronger. And I found better ways to, like, recover, because the things that I didn't do well, I didn't have the greatest diet. I didn't sleep well. I didn't take care of my body because I always got away with it, like being a really good athlete. And what people don't know is that as aggressive as you train, you have to equally recover just as aggressively. And I would wait till I felt sore and tired to finally, okay, I need a massage. I need to go to the cold tub versus, all right, if I'm feeling good, let's keep feeling good. So yeah, I just kept finding ways because I loved football like that much. I loved it so much where I found ways to just keep bouncing back. And it's funny, I'm reading this book right now called The Gap in the Game. And he had a quote saying the most successful people fail over and over, fail the most, because if you keep failing, then clearly you're good enough to keep playing. You know what I'm saying? And so that was big for me. Like, it was hard. Like, even now, you know, dealing with some arthritis, my hands, I had so many surgeries on my hands and stuff like that. It's crazy because I'm like, shoot, mentally or sometimes physically, I'm like, yeah, like I could still be doing it, but I just know like the stuff I dealt with physically that really, really made it challenging for me my whole career. So I was always fighting just my health. I was always fighting, you know, against, I guess, the executives on to like give me a chance or to not think about, you know, my injury. So it was, but I was just a competitor, man. Like you said, it was just different. My upbringing, I grew up in a competitive environment. Like, it was, you got made fun of or it was competing. Like, I told my son, you know, I'm like, he was like, oh, you know, you're pretty good at a bunch of sports. I was like, yeah, I never had a trainer for any sport I ever played because I was always outside competing against people I didn't know. So yeah, I think just resilient, man. That's what just kept me going, man. I just kept finding ways, and as my career has gotten longer, obviously there's been more studies and more medicine and more techniques, more research onto keep your body healthy. So I just kept updating that stuff.
And definitely right before we get off, I want to touch on, you know, the Cowboys hat that you mentioned. You worked with the Cowboys organization a little bit this off season,
right?
Being a coach and, you know, mentoring some guys. I saw you took a picture with Gilmore and Diggs, and you talk about the, you know, elite secondaries. Touch on just, you know, what happened, you know, out during that time out there, but also, you know, what you maybe looking to get into coaching side or anything like that.
Yeah, I was so right now I work with some agencies to get the guys ready for the draft or the combine. So I do all kinds of I do some training, you know, like on the field. Like I don't do as much field work because, oh my guys, there's only so many DB drills you can do.
Right. Like, I always say that.
It's only a few. Hey.
Yeah, like honestly, you can YouTube some drills, like straight up, you know. But I really teach guys. I teach guys how to watch film. I teach them how to get ready for interviews. I teach them how to draw on the board because, believe it or not, these kids today do not know how to draw formations on the board. It's mind-boggling. And so I really teach them like the NFL stuff. Like, I remember when I got to the league, you know, the first thing they tell you is like, go be a pro. It's like, well, it's like, how? Like, I just got here, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I be a pro? So that's what I teach a lot of guys. So during that, I have been able to maintain a lot of relationships with front offices and coaches in the NFL because I get feedback and I'll give them some notes or what have you. And so they mentioned like, hey, if you're interested, you should think about doing the fellowship thing to see that side. And I did not want to be. I had no desire at first because I played 12 years and those guys, they're in the office all day long. So I'm like, I enjoy my family life. So I'm not really to give that up like that. And so my wife, she's a big, not just supporter. She's the one like, yo, go check it out. Cause like you'll be good at it. You'll be such a good coach or executive. So I filled out the fellowship thing. I clicked all 32 teams, and ironically, the Cowboys called, and McCarthy's the one who drafted me. So I'm sure he even told me, he saw my name and was like, "This is a no-brainer." So yeah, I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to be able to spend time with the front office and spend time with the coaches. And it's cool because Al Harris is the secondary coach, and he was my veteran when I played. Joe Witt, the secondary coordinator, passing game coordinator, he was the quality control guy. I knew Dan Quinn from Seattle. So it was cool to go there and be there. And man, like the culture there is just outstanding. It's like, Jerry, Mr. Jones gives them everything that they need. It's crazy over there because like there's always tours, there's people around. Like it is hard to be a Dallas Cowboy player. Like there's so many things and so many distractions going on. It's crazy. Like it's not even about the players, it's about like the brand. And then like Dan Quinn is just he's just one of one. Like he's gonna get a ton of interviews already next year, just because he's an unbelievable coach. And obviously, for them to have Coach McCarthy Super Bowl coach and Dan Quinn Super Bowl coach, like it's cool. So for me, they let me be me, and they're big. The Cowboys are big on like developing like this program, like really, if you're trying to be in the league, like really to help, minority coaches get in there with the fellowship program. So I'm leaning more front office than coaching, but if coaching's my way in the door, then so be it. So it was cool, man, just to have that experience too. Like not only was I helping the secondary, but I had Trayvon Diggs and Gilmore. Like that's insane. And it was cool to see their relationship, because you can see Trey step his game up from an IQ standpoint, because now you have somebody in the room with more hardware than you. I mean, defense player of the year, it doesn't get any bigger than that, and a Super Bowl champion. And so it was cool because they immediately got along and clicked, and they sit in the back room watching film, helping each other. Like it's pretty dope.
Now, in addition to what you said, whether it's executive or coaching, you're also into the media space a little bit.
Right.
I've seen you on it's not Speak for Yourself no more. I think it's just called Speak.
It's just called Speak. Yep.
So I've seen you on there a little bit. But one of the things that we talked about this a while ago, my roommate that was playing for the Cardinals now, he's also from Rhode Island. He was like, yo, follow Will Blackmon, bro. Like, he one of the most outspoken, like he don't be caring that, like, he don't have no filter on Twitter or whatever. And one of the things that, like,
I have a filter.
You got a filter. You don't be talking. Trust me, it's some way worse ones out there.
Yeah.
But what I do admire about like how you speak about the game though is that like it don't look like you give your opinion, and if it's not like the popular one, or like if it cut a little deep, like it is what it is. Do you ever feel like it's difficult to speak on your fraternity brothers, quote unquote, or like the game is the game in that way?
So there's a way to do it. Like this is why like my style is not popular on TV, because I actually give like real game to people, and I give real knowledge, and I'm always trying to make sense. Now, if you love football and you love like that kind of detail, it works for sure, like for the real consumer. But what's ratings is like hot takes and people talking trash. Like if someone didn't do well, I'm not gonna be like, man, this guy's horrible, he can't do this, he needs to get out of here. I'm gonna be like, man, like he really like messed this up. This is probably what he was thinking, but in order for him to get better, this is what he needs to do. Like that's how I'm gonna go about it. I'm gonna give you like what's the problem, the why, and then the solution. I always give the solution. That's why last year I called Mountain West games, and like calling games in the booth is like dope. That's more my speed, because I'm literally just talking football. Whereas sitting at a desk, I'm gonna tell you why these things happen, or why this works, or why this didn't work, or why this person. I'm never gonna bash them, but I'll criticize, but from an educational standpoint. But I'm never gonna like diss another player. For me, that's crazy. Like to do that, just to know too, like I don't gain nothing from it. And like the dude knew he messed up. Now, if he does something foul and super disrespectful and insane, I'm still not gonna go in, because I don't really care that much. But that would be a reason to like say something. You know what I mean? So That's why for me too, like doing those shows it's fun, because I like working with those people. Like I love working with Acho and Joy and Shady and Rick Buca, whoever was on that show, and going to hang out with Colin. But like I'm not a arguer. Like I don't. It's hard for me to get. It's hard to get emotion out of me about a topic I really don't give a damn about. Now if we're talking about someone like that's personal, like we had to talk about Aaron Rodgers, who I know obviously very well. We talked about Coach Robert Saleh, and so my emotion, I got a little serious, because I'm like I know these people. Like they're not thinking that, they're not saying that. We were talking about Aaron and his list of demands when he was trying to go to the Jets, and I'm like, there's no list. how you know? And I can't say it on TV, but I was like, I was with the dude yesterday. Like there's the list. You know what I mean? And it's hard because we don't know what's going on in these locker rooms. So you're on TV just trying to figure out and guess and assume. And it was funny because when I was with Dallas, I'm hearing all this stuff in the press about the Cowboys, and people have no clue. Like everyone was like dead wrong about anything and everything they said. And but I will say too, my time with the Cowboys allowed me to. I already had like great respect for Dak. I have the utmost respect for Dak, and we ended up hanging out. We had a cigar one night. He and I, and Scott Golnick, our PR guy, we were just hanging out for hours, and I really got to like talk to him and learn about him and understand him. And that is a legit like solid dude, man. He is just the ultimate professional. He is who you want to be your franchise quarterback. And he's dealing with the great pressure. Like you're not only the QB for the Dallas Cowboys, you're a black quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Like that's a double whammy. So like there is nothing that he can do if he does like anything wrong. Like sure, the defense played ridiculous the other night in special teams, so he didn't have to do much. Like he'll get criticized for that, but he didn't have to do much. You know, like but he does such a good job of not letting it bother him. Especially like not to mention, like I said, QB for the Cowboys, African American QB for the Cowboys, you know, end up losing his mom and then losing his brother, and to still walk straight and keep his head on straight and still try to lead this team to the Super Bowl is impressive, man. And he's Walter Payton Man of the Year for a reason. So that's why it's crazy that he gets lit up like that when he doesn't warrant it at all. Like he don't. I get why people don't, you know, mess with Aaron because he's like, he don't care what you think, and he lets you know that. Where Dak is he's just trying to win football games, man.
For the Cowboys, it's a tough job, and everyone, and as soon as they don't, everyone's on them. It's not, you know, everyone seems like everyone wants to see the Cowboys do bad, but now
that's because their fans are a pain in the butt. That's why, man. That's
true. Yeah. Now with this experience, and then also seeing the Deion stuff, you know, being a former player, things like that, has this maybe motivated you to look at a college job or look at, you know, I know you mentioned like BC a little bit on Twitter, but have you, you know, thought about that position at all? Maybe.
You know what? My thing is like I am putting my name in a hat for NFL, for coaching the front office. The deal with college is I'll never say no. I'll always listen. And if somebody called and they were dead serious, like not just like, hey, what do you think, or messing around, then I would totally get prepared and interview. I will always listen. You just never know what. Like right now, my coaching radar is probably to take over a college is like I haven't even really thought about it. Well, I have thought about it recently because people are messing with me about like because BC is kind of not doing as well as people think. And if somebody called, I would listen.
I just had to do that look. The first 2 weeks it's been interesting for BC.
If somebody called, I would listen and what have you. So I know a couple of guys have called me already, like in case they get something. So I'm like, all right.
We'll let the audience infer further than that, but Will, I mean, I appreciate your time. This has been great.
Yeah, of course.
I'm glad we were able to connect. Right before we get off, you were one of the best returners, you know, that the game has seen, collegiate and NFL. The return game has changed a little bit, obviously, with the new rules and things like that. But during your playing time, and you know, maybe just from like the 2000s to now, can you give me a list of, you know, top 3 to 5 best return men that you have seen or that the game has seen?
Well, shoot, my time alone in returning punts, I mean, obviously, like no one made a Pro Bowl because of Hester. Like I could have made, I was averaging 11, 12 yards of return, but this dude was taking them all to the crib. So Hester was there. He was part of my era. Obviously, you know, Teddy Ginn was part of the era. Reggie Bush was part of the era returning punts. Leon Washington, Josh Cribbs, and Jacoby Jones. Like those are all the returners. Like when I was there, when I was playing, so that was a big deal. But yeah, just all time, man. You got to put, obviously Devin Hester, Brian Mitchell, Dante Hall, now Cordarrelle Patterson. He's still taking them things to the crib like effortlessly. And so, yeah, those are the guys I immediately think of when it comes to that. Like those guys right there have multiple returns. You got Billy White Shoes Johnson. Obviously, Dion's name comes to mind because he has a lot of TDs. Rod Woodson was a really good returner too. Rod Woodson is the most disrespected Hall of Famer of all time because he arguably he could put his hat in for the greatest defensive back of all time. Like there is nothing that he hasn't done that anyone else has done he hasn't done. Yeah, he was, and he played both ways too. So yeah, I think those are it. Yeah, Hester, Dante Hall, Brian Mitchell, Cordarrelle Patterson, Leon Washington, Josh Cribbs. I like that group.
I do got to ask before I let you go about the mindset of being a kickoff returner is one thing, but I think a punt returner, y'all a little crazy. Like I ain't gonna lie.
You know what? You do have to be a little bit crazy. But that's the fun part is like it's really a psychological warfare in terms of like just being smart. That's why what people don't know is, I didn't know is like you can actually prepare and study as a punt returner. And that's what actually helped me elevate like my game as a returner. Because when I got there, I was all right, you catch the punt and you go, it's a right return, left return, middle return. Done deal. You know what I'm saying? But as a punt returner, I learned, okay, if we're doubling the outsides, then that's a 6-box return, right? There's 6 in the box. So on that one, the free runner is the personal protector because there's no one for him. So if we're doubling the outside, then I just need to know, okay, what's he doing? Because those guys should be taken care of. If it's a 7-box, well, then now I got a single guy. So I'm watching that guy because he has to win. Because if he loses, then I got to throw the hand up. You know what I'm saying? Or now if it's an 8-box, then we're probably going to rush. And, we got singles on the outside. Are they backed up where he needs to get it out quick? So it might be a line drive. Are they at the 50-yard line? It's most likely going to be an Aussie style hang. Hang time. Is he a right-footed punter? Because if he's a right-footed punter, I'm going to catch it. It's going to roll in my left arm. If he's left-footed punter, I'm going to catch it, and it's going to spin, land in my right arm. Is he directional? You know what I'm saying? If he's a directional punter, well, then I need to get to the spot quickly because if I sprint to the spot quickly, then I actually can return it easier. So I actually am watching through the line, seeing the ball hit his foot, and I'm able to track it easier. You know what I'm saying? So there's all these things that go in my mind right before I receive the punt, and then I know how to make a decision.
I respect the game way too much to act like I know everything. So like when it comes to like DB and like corner and safety, I'm like, yo, I know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not gonna lie, I learned a lot right there. Like the right hand with the left,
that's crazy. That's
crazy.
Wild.
I ain't never thought about that.
Yeah, because if you right, I got a wine bottle right here, believe it or not. So right, if I kick it this way, it's gonna spin, right? So if I keep spinning that way, it's gonna roll into my left hand. So, yeah, or the other one too. If it gets punted and it's the nose is down, it's gonna go away from me. So I need to run ahead of it, and so it lands in my arm. Yeah, I know.
Tough. It's a tough job back there.
That's what I'm saying, though. It ain't just like boom, boom. It's like boom catch.
It's a tough job back there.
The hardest catch, the hardest punt return I ever had was the fair catch I made in the Super Bowl because that one I just had a fair catch it. I knew he was going to hang it up in the air for 10 years. I just had a fair catch it, and then the next play after that is when Eli threw it to Mario Manningham on the sideline. So. Because I'm thinking, I was telling myself all the wrong things too. I'm like, don't drop this. If you drop this, you're not gonna be able to go back to New York. You're never gonna play in the league again. I was saying all the bad things in my mind you're not supposed to do, and I ended up fair catching that thing. And I was like, thank God, bro, because crazy.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, and that's one of those things in a game where it's like a punt goes on, and you may walk away from the TV because you just expect the guy to go back there and catch it. You don't really you don't expect to. And then when they do drop it, you're on them. It's like, oh, how could you drop it?
You got one job.
That's your
Yeah,
job,
no, it is.
I
learned punt return. It's about sure hands. It's not taking it to the crib. You know, it's just that, you know, it's dope when you take it to the crib. Obviously, last night, you know, dude took it to the crib and walk off punt return. Those are great, but just get field position. You know, get field position and get a first down. It was my last punt return story before we rock is I remember Aaron Rodgers' first start in 2008, and it was actually the first time my wife ever seen me play. So I'm like, I'm doing something. Like, I needed to. She didn't watch. She watched football, but she didn't know me like that or who I was, what I was doing. So I remember I was out there not fair catching a damn thing. I'm over here just going crazy, like getting blasted, losing field position. McCarthy's getting furious, and I remember I go to the sideline and we had former Packer receiver Robert Brooks. He came over to me. He was like, "Bro, you good?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just." Just trying to make a play. No one knows my girlfriend at the time who's my wife. She's in the stands. So that's why I'm over here like looking crazy. And he's like, look, when you get the return, he said, just get the first 10 yards. Just get the first 10 yards. And I'm like, all right, because he said, think about it. If you get 10 yards of return, you're going to be top of the league because, no one is averaging 10 yards of return. So I go and I'm like, all right, let me just follow this man's advice because I already got yelled at by McCarthy. I'm already losing yards. So I get the first punt. I think I get like 11-yard gain and everyone's like cheering me on. Like, yeah, good stuff. Like perfect. Next one, I think I fair caught. And then I get one, like a line drive. And I'm like, okay, just get the first 10. So boom, I hit through, get the first 10. And I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm still running. So boom, I break a left. I went down the sideline and I'm like, oh, like I'm still going. And then boom, I cut back across field and end up taking it to the crib. And for me, I was like, man, you think of like, I need to do all these things to try to score a return. Is like, just hit the first wave and then the rest will happen. Just get the first 10. And yeah, I did make it extra special. I ran over to these stands, gave her the ball, blah, blah, blah.
That's what got you the ring today.
Yeah. I wish that was the case. Hell no, she don't give a damn about that.
Man, well, I appreciate this. We'll definitely have to do something again. When we get out to California or something, we'll have to reach out to you. But man, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. It was fun. It was great stories. I'm gonna have to take you up on that wine offer. So shoot me the text of that name because I definitely forgot it by now. But
it was something German. That's all I know.
Something German. So when it's a good night,
Gewürztraminer. Just look up sweet German wines. It starts with a G. Gewürztraminer.
Okay, bad. Yeah, we can do that. But we'll definitely have to tap back in. I appreciate you. Wish you nothing but success in the future. Hopefully see you on the sideline soon.
Yes, indeed. In the suit too. I'm gonna be fly. I'm gonna be the coolest coach ever.
In the suit? Ooh, you gonna have to go somewhere a little chilly then, because you can't be out there. You can't be in California or the South with the suit on. You're gonna be hot.
Then I'm gonna wear linen. I'm gonna be out there looking like I'm in the Bahamas right now.
Like, protect the sticks with the suit on is crazy. I ain't gonna lie. Protect the sticks with the suit
on. All right, fellas. Appreciate you, man.
All right, appreciate you. Have a good one.